Music mogul Sean Diddy Combs back behind bars, a magistrate judge denying him bail, saying that there were no conditions that she could conceive of that would make her confident that he would appear again for other court appearances. The judge saying, "My concern is this is a crime that happens behind closed doors." Diddy's lawyers had argued that he had made good faith efforts by showing up in New York, ready to surrender to face these charges, but prosecutors said that he could not be trusted, that he has a history of trying to intimidate witnesses, including some
audio footage allegedly showing Diddy panicking inside Brooklyn's Metropolitan Detention Center has sparked widespread online talk. Reports say that Diddy, currently held while awaiting trial, is under strict surveillance.
Who are going to be witnesses in this case. They urged the judge to remand him. She did. And when the judge did, Diddy, who was sitting at the defense table with his attorneys, did not show any signs of emotion. He took a sip of water before he was led out of the courtroom by the U.S. Marshals. Now, his lawyers have vowed to fight this. They are going to be back in court on Wednesday before the judge who will oversee this trial and try to get Diddy to be released.
Brooklyn's MDC is known for its harsh conditions. Inmates have reported regular stabbings, poor medical care, and food contaminated with cockroaches.
After he was charged with that sex trafficking case, he was let out of the courtroom by the U.S. Marshals, and he will be held in federal detention as this case moves forward. Now, this followed a lengthy hearing with both prosecutors and Diddy's attorneys, arguing reasons why he should be kept behind bars and why he should be released. Diddy's lawyers saying that he has taken voluntary steps, including turning over his passport to his lawyers, saying he would report any of his movements to prosecutors. But the judge finding that that was just not enough. She said, "My concern is that this is a crime that happened behind closed doors, even when pretrial services is monitoring." So she said there was nothing that his lawyers had offered that made her feel comfortable that he would return to this courthouse for subsequent court hearings and for a trial. She said that it was both his substance abuse and the fact that some of this physical abuse that's been alleged occurred when he was using drugs and alcohol, that was a reason why she couldn't trust that he would not commit any additional crimes while he was left on bail. So Sean Diddy Combs is not going to be walking out this door. He is in federal custody, where he will be unless his lawyers are able to convince a different judge.
Many describe the facility as hell on earth, with chronic understaffing and a hazardous, crime-filled environment.
Sean Combs still behind bars as we speak after a judge denied his request for bail a second time. And the place where he's locked up now getting a lot of attention. The Metropolitan Detention Center, the only federal jail in New York City, is known for violence, poor conditions, and a string of celebrity detainees. And Diddy's attorneys want him out.
This federal detention center has also held other high-profile inmates like Ghislaine Maxwell and R. Kelly, who both described their time there as mentally exhausting.
Sean Diddy Combs is locked up in a federal jail that has been plagued by harsh conditions and violence. The Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn has seen multiple deaths in recent years. An inmate was stabbed to death in July, and several others have died by suicide.
Cameron Lindsay, a former MDC warden, voiced concern for Diddy's safety, pointing out that a celebrity of his status could be a target for mistreatment in the jail's culture.
You say his fame makes him a target.
Yes, in my humble estimation, his life, his safety is in jeopardy in any correctional lockup right now. If it is true, as reported, that he is housed in the special housing unit, it's important to note that the special housing unit is a lockdown, 24-hour lockdown unit. The MDC Brooklyn is a high-rise. The vast majority of the floors are general population floors, but the special housing unit is a 24-hour lockdown facility. So this is for Mr. Combs' protection. His incredible worldwide celebrity combined with the allegations, the charges now, and indictment, of course, of acts of violence against women make him a very attractive target.
All right.
They need to safeguard him.
The difference between Diddy's past luxurious lifestyle and his current incarceration is striking. As the legal case progresses, Diddy's life may undergo major changes.
He used to eat delicious things like duck and chicken, but now it's downgraded to some potatoes. Not a very appetizing meal that he had last night. And by the way, if you've heard of MDC Brooklyn, this detention center, it's probably because R. Kelly has stayed there, Fetty Wap has stayed there, Michael Cohen, Allison Mack, and and Ghislaine Maxwell. A lot of famous people have gone here before. Really, really rough, we're told.
Once residing in multi-million-dollar mansions and hosting lavish parties, Diddy now faces life in a solitary cell without the comforts of his former lifestyle.
Orchestrated all of these freak-offs, purchased multiple hotel rooms for these freak-offs to take place, had his staff stock the rooms with different items, drugs, lube, extra sheets, things of that nature for the freak-off, didn't allow individuals to not participate in the freak-off. And one of the ways that he did that was by using drugs in order to get them to a state of mind so that they would participate, or he would use the tapes as extortion to force them into these freak-offs. And he did all of this for his own perverted, twisted benefit. I don't know if he was participating in these. I don't know if he was getting off to these videos that he was making. Who knows? This is crazy. I don't know how else to put it. It's crazy. It's terrible. The amount of people whose lives have been forever affected by this. I just want to know some more information, and I want to know who else is involved in this, because I have a feeling that this is going to be massive for the next 2, 3, 4 years and beyond.
An associate of Diddy openly shared on the Art of Dialogue podcast that he knows many of Diddy's secrets.
See, Puff, it's kind of a surprise, but like I told my brother, man, you know, he was telling me he don't think Puff gonna get locked up. I say, bitch, they got Chapo. You know what I'm saying? Like I was telling you earlier, they got Chapo. They can put Chapo under the ground, they can hide Puff. But it's just long overdue. Like for a while, it made me kind of question, like, damn, you know, it's to the point where it felt like they forced the feds to do their job. He forced the feds to do their job, because if they didn't do it, everybody looking at them like, what, do you motherfuckers exist? You know what I'm saying? Like, he done got away with too much, but you gotta understand this, right? A lot of stuff Puffy going through, and I don't wish bad on him. Like, before this transpired, I had a lot of hatred toward him, but it was about financial reasons. When it comes to this subject, it's very sensitive to me because there's a lot of victims in here. You know what I'm saying? And at the end of the day, it's still somebody's father. You know what I'm saying? So, but we make our own bed, man. And for a long time, a lot of people, I want him to understand that a lot of people was hurt because you couldn't live your truth. Everything he going through right now is because he couldn't let go. He couldn't let go having a position of power over street niggas, and also being who he is. If people know his secrets, because believe one thing about it, you know, and that's with all these rappers. Somebody know your secrets. You might be you and Puffy getting, you know, because Puffy, I can imagine he approached these guys who going through financial situations, these rappers who get themselves start making a lot of money, then when things don't be hot no more, you fall back on people like him. He prey on you. And what he do is he offer you things to keep up a lifestyle. You can imagine Puffy, Playboy. You know, Playboy, don't worry about that, man.
Cassie, Diddy's former partner, is reportedly a key figure in the accusations that led to his arrest.
And I talked about who the main witness is. Who's the main witness here? It's Cassie, right? She's the girl that gets beat up. She's his girlfriend. She makes, you know, she's the one that drops one of the original lawsuits. He ends up saying, hey, look, you know what? I'm gonna, the next day, let's settle this and be done with this, right? But they're not done. It's not done. That was just the beginning to the end. And then Little Rod comes and drops a lawsuit. He's like, hey, man, I think they're telling him we're going to drop a lawsuit, man, if you don't. And he's like, well, his lawyer's probably like, look, you got to stop it, because if not, it's just going to keep on going. You got to fight, you know? And I think it was probably the biggest mistake of his life was the issues with Little Rod. Little Rod had the video footage. And you know what? If he would have settled with him, you know, there's some other people that came out of the woodwork, but would they have had the evidence that Little Rod has? Probably not.
He would probably go in, cooperate, if he has anything to cooperate against. Get 20 years, maybe 15, and get time off for helping to build other cases. And maybe he ends up with 15, maybe he's out in 7-8 years with good time credits or whatever. Maybe. I know you differ. You know, if he goes to trial, he loses. Let me put it this way. enticing professional.
On the Stoop podcast, a former correctional officer shared an insider's perspective on the realities of life in federal jails like MDC Brooklyn.
All the other inmates going to court, they would have him on a separate transportation detail. They would have special escorts to take him back and forth to court, but he would still have to go through the searches and stuff like that. Jail is very demeaning if you're an inmate, right? Because when you come into the facility, like say Sean Puffy came in last night because they arrested him, he has to go through a search. They have to bring him into the receiving room. They have to make him take all his clothes off. They have to search his clothes, search him, make him run his fingers through his hair, open your mouth, turn around, squat, cough, all of that. That's, it's traumatic. There's no other way to say it. And, they send you to the housing area, and then you're in a room that you've never been in before, and it's just one bed there for you, and the bed is a twin-size bed. He's probably used to sleeping in king-size beds with all the comforters and pillows and a television set, and, he doesn't have that now. He's in a cell. And his cell is no better than any other cell that's in there. So if the cells are run down, his cell is run down too. They're not gonna put him in a special suite or anything like that. He's gonna get what everybody else gets. He had breakfast, they woke him up. Usually when an inmate has to go to court, we wake them up around 4 in the morning, 4:30, because they have to be sent to the receiving room. They have to eat first, and then they have to be sent to the receiving room. They have to be searched, and then they have to be cuffed and taken, to transportation. The cuffs are usually cuffed at the arm with a waist chain on. So being that he's going to be traveling by himself, he's going to be cuffed, and they're going to have a waist chain on him. The chain's going to be around his waist. Sometimes it's a belt, sometimes it's a chain, and he's going to have leg irons. So he's not going to be able to run or anything like that. And then they're going to take him to the court, and then they're going to turn him over to the courts there, and then they're going to take everything off, and they're going to search him again. Most of the time they will search you again, and then they put you in the cell and wait for the judge to call you up to the courtroom when they're ready for him. So he had to go through that. He had to sit in court all day. And now that he is not getting bail, he has to go everything in reverse. Now he has to go back.
Before his arrest, Diddy was seen walking in Central Park, which led some to speculate that he knew his arrest was coming.
So Diddy was seen in Central Park hanging out right before he was arrested, and his indictment dropped this morning. And it looks like it's going to be his last bit of freedom, because they are seeking no bond, no bail, and his charge is justified. On top of that, he is also facing multiple life sentences.
I'm missing her. Yeah. George's here.
Considering the seriousness of the charges and the conditions at MDC, some legal experts speculate that Diddy may have a hard time during his time in prison. This situation raises important questions about whether high-profile celebrities should receive different treatment in jail for safety reasons.
Probably the most prestigious prosecutor's office in the country. And federal agents executed 2 search warrants, one in Miami and one a mile away from where I live here in Los Angeles, with a lot of armed federal agents who went into the home, and they're looking for evidence of criminal activity, primarily sex trafficking, like you talked about, Christina, but other crimes as well. Add gun and firearms charges, and we're talking about someone who may spend decades in federal prison, like R. Kelly. And this is why, under federal law, if someone is convicted of even one count of sex trafficking, it carries a minimum 10 or 15-year prison sentence minimum. The judge can't go any lower for each count, depending on the age of the victim.
So there is a potential that Diddy could spend the rest of his life in prison.
Oh, very real possibility. I wouldn't be surprised if this is another Jeffrey Epstein or an R. Kelly type case where we're talking about multiple victims across multiple jurisdictions over a significant period of time. And again, these are just allegations. Nothing's been proven yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if Diddy is arrested in the coming days or weeks, and he's going to have to face these charges. And there's no possible plea that is going to get him off with a slap on the wrist or probation. The prosecutors are successful and able to prove it. He may end up dying in prison.
The pressure from the charges, along with the worsening conditions of the jail, has raised widespread concerns that Diddy's mental and physical health could decline quickly if he stays in custody.
If he is found guilty, he will go to prison for many, many years. Of the 3 charges against him, one of them has a 20-year sentence, another has a 20-year sentence, another has a 10-year sentence, and then there are aggravating factors. He could be in prison for the rest of his life. I mean, this is a very serious criminal matter.
Detailing P. Diddy having a manipulator-in-chief, Christina Crowham, a similar vibe to Ghislaine Maxwell.
So that's a great question. And yes, these accused predators, in the case of Diddy, do not operate alone, right? They always operate with a lot of people around them who are enablers, who are complicit. And we often see, I'm sorry to say, women like Ghislaine Maxwell, because women will trust other women. We might be wary of men. We might be a little bit careful about being alone with somebody if they're a man. But if it's a woman, well, okay, you know, I feel a little bit more comfortable.
Diddy's legal team proposed a $50 million bail in an effort to secure his release while he awaits trial.
I'm a little shocked by the idea that he stuck around to take his comeuppance. Like, maybe he has decided he wants to take some measure of accountability. I don't know. I know they put him in that jail in Brooklyn, and that jail is real.
When he got arrested, I got a bunch of texts from my friends who were like, he's still in the States? You get hit with the racketeering charge. That just seems when it starts to get real as
Well, did you see that report that he was prepared to like post a $50 million bond? Brother, I got to tell you something. If your lawyer thinks that the bail for you is going to be $50 million, that is your lawyer telling you you're never getting out of jail. You're going to be in jail forever. Like, what would you rather get? Life in prison or like the 500 years?
Adding to Diddy's legal troubles are the testimonies of several victims who have accused him of harmful behavior.
Controlled substances were distributed to the victims, which kept them compliant. Sometimes Sean would engage in violent behavior, including punching, dragging, kicking, striking, and throwing objects. Victims often sustained injuries that took days or weeks to heal. Sean would coerce his victims to remain concealed until they recovered, so they would not be observed by the public and expose his criminal activity. In addition to all the other methods of manipulation he deployed, Sean kept the recordings that he made as collateral to ensure the continued silence of his victims. After an event, Sean would often use IV fluids to recover from the physical exertion and drug use. His associates would clean the hotel rooms for him. The charges that Sean faces are very serious. If convicted, he is facing a maximum penalty of life in prison. Now moving to my analysis. Here are my thoughts on a few areas that stood out to me in this case. Item number 1. Sean has a long criminal history, but he has never faced anything like racketeering. This charge is an organized crime which involves engaging in a pattern of illegal activities.